Hey guys, we're here with a special guest today, Adriel, who finished top 32 at the North American Remote Duel YCS with Centur-Ion Superheavy. So huge congrats to you. And I just sort of want to ask,
Thank you.
why you decided to play the super heavy stuff. Obviously, it's not necessarily new with Centurion, but I would say recently people have kind of phased that out by now. But yeah, curious to hear your thoughts.
The reason why I ended up deciding to play it was because a lot of people that have been playing this deck are playing pure. Paxless, I know, was very popular, but I don't think that's the way. I've been playing this deck since it came out, since Calamity was unbanned, since that was the line, and I just don't feel like the engine is strong enough to do it, like to push for some certain games. So adding a supplemental engine that can cross over into the scent stuff just felt the right way, and it's just that's what the Super Heavy Samurai does. It allows you to create those lines that cross over into the Centurion lines, and it just gives you so much value.
Awesome. Well, let's just get right to the list then.
Yeah, for sure. So, as you mentioned, we are playing the Super Heavy Samurai stuff, so we'll just start with that. So, we got the typical thing. A lot of people that played around cash format at the beginning will know this. It'll be three motorbike. This is probably this is the best way to start. It's so you discard it, add Wakaushi, and then you go from there. A lot of people know, but this is just great because they either hand trap you here or they let you play because they don't know what you're doing. Like I had a lot of games where people were like, "Whoa, you're playing super heavy," and so they won't interact with it. They won't interact with it. The next card that we had for the engine would be two Akaushis. I wanted the third one, but I couldn't get it in time because I late registered, so I just didn't have time. But this guy is insane. He places himself in the or you can place him in the pendulum zone, and then his effect is to basically summon himself up for free and then scale one, which is the Big Benkei. This is just he's just good. He's just great. I mean, they're either gonna impulse you here, which hurts, but I mean, you're getting more interruption out their hand, or they let it resolve and you just keep going. But they can't interact with it essentially. They can't. The only thing that we can do now is impulse, and no one was impulsing it. Just no one was impulsing. There's better impulse targets in this format, and no one was impulsing it, so it just resolved almost every time. Um, and now we have the two kind of bricks. The only real brick in this engine is Big Benkei. So we have Super Heavy Samurai Soul Guy Booster and Super Heavy Samurai Monk Big Benkei. So Benkei is almost unplayable if you see him in your hand. If you see him in your hand, it's pretty bad because you can't get the free summon. However, if you see like both of these guys, it's fine because you can just place him, normal summon, and do all that. Essentially, what Big Benkei does is he lets you add the Soul Gaia booster, and what Soul Gaia booster does is it equips from hand to the Wakaushi that's you've already summoned off Big Benkei, and then while it's equipped, it can summon itself, and so that makes your line. But that's it, pretty much for the super heavy samurai stuff. And so now for the Centurion stuff, like the actual soul of the deck, we are playing our three Primaris. So we got one. Our three Primaris. She's the heart and soul of the deck. When she is normal or special summon, she can add any Centurion card, which is basically I play heroes, so it's essentially Stratos, which is ridiculous because it's any card. She's really good at drawing out hand traps and imperms, and she's also a big part because she's a tuner. She is one of I want to say three tuners in the deck, and so she's necessary to have. You have to run her at three, but yeah, she's one of the best cards in the deck. The next monster we're going to have for the engine will be the three Trudeas. Super strong card. So what she does is she has a ignition effect as to where she can place herself in the back row and place another one. Essentially, this line, she is the most broken deck in. She's the most broken card in general right now. She can't be interacted with unless it's with Imperm and or like Valor, but otherwise your opponent can't Asher. They can't draw you on resolution. Under draw, you can use this, and she can become a level 8, which is also strong. And I did have a ruling where if she gets impermed while she becomes a level 8, she actually stays a level 8. So that's even better because now they've wasted a hand trap thinking she won't. but it's her trap effect that lets her gain the level 8. I did check with a judge on that. So that's Trudea. As for the one of Centurions, we have Centurion Gargoyle, Atri. So these two, essentially, what they do is they allow for more combo extension. Atri, whenever he's summoned, if there's a Centurion card and Emblema Oath card, you can draw one card, which is super strong because most of the time when you do this, it's going to be chain blocked. So they can never ash this, and if they ash this, oh well, I mean, it's just more bait. They're falling for it, but it's also another tuner, and it can be treated as a non-tuner, which is essentially what makes this card so good and why you have to play it at 1. Especially with this build, you need more tuners. And the fact that you can just make him a non-tuner, just in case you open like him and her, you can just keep extending like that. Gargoyle is our non-tuner of the deck, our second non-tuner of the deck, and what it does is if it's in the spell trap card zone, it can place itself up, summon itself up, just like most Centurions, and it can change its level to 4. Sometimes that comes up in the tournament. I didn't really see it as much. It's a great level 8, and when it's synchro summoned, it can add itself back to hand from graveyard, right? So when you go into the level 12s, you can chain block your level 12s by chaining his effect to add back to hand as chain link 2, and they can't interact with it. So we're going to keep going with the engine for Cent. We have our 3 Emblema Oaths. So this card is essentially, if you play during Unchained format, it's your Abomination's Prison. It's not a Centurion card, but it is. You can't search it through regular means. You can search it now with your extra deck, which we'll see in a minute. But what this card lets you do is it lets you place one Centurion monster from deck to the spell and trap card zone, or you can just directly set a Centurion spell or trap from your deck. This is strong. The reason why I love this deck so much is because a lot of these mechanics you just cannot interact with. You can't interact with placing yet in our game. So just being able to place most of your stuff and them not being able to answer it is ridiculous. This is also your biggest 1-card starter. But yeah, being able to place like Primera or Trudea in the spell trap card zone, it does lock you into Centurions, but you can basically out that very easily. And then now we have the second best card in the deck. So we have our 3 stand-ups, right? So stand-up is a field spell, and essentially what it does is it lets you pitch one from your hand. It has to send a graveyard to place one from deck. You're always going to be placing from deck. And also, when a monster is special summoned once per turn, you can synchro summon using a Centurion monster you control. This is why the deck is super strong, and this is why I decided to pick it. When I originally played Vanadium, and once Baron got hit, I needed to find a new deck. And Synchro, this card really made me fall in love with the deck. Being able to Synchro on your opponent's turn is just, it's a lot. It's a lot. I mean, you can create another Cosmic Blazar. You can chain block with this card on your turn. It's just a lot. It's a lot that this card does. And it's like layered interaction. And it can't be destroyed by card effects while you control a Centurion monster, including these guys. Because when a card is checking for monster card type, it just checks the original type. So when you have the Centurion like face up in your spell trap card zone, this still can't be blown up. And so many people do not know that. I ran into so many Tempai matchups where they harpies me and they're like, "Why is your field spell still on?" And I explained to them that they just can't destroy it. And so it's another protection, and that's just so strong. And now for some of our utility Centurion spells, I got all right here. So we have our Wake Up and our Phalanx and our Bonds. So we only played 3 of these. These aren't as bad. They're definitely mandatory. Bonds is really strong. So what it does is it lets you place one from hand or graveyard, and it fixes those bad hands. Sometimes you just see Primera and Trudea in your hand, and if you see this, it's fine because you can just place them from your hand and keep comboing. Also, in the graveyard, it's another chain blocker, which is what you want to do, because when a Centurion monster, like your synchro monsters, are special summon from the extra deck, you can banish this from the graveyard, and then place one Centurion monster from your graveyard and place it into the spell trap card zone, which is ridiculous because now where your opponents could Ash and could Mourner, because those can miss timing, now they can't. you know, and that's what's really strong about it. Phalanx is a targeting face up banish. You don't really use it for that. It's strong. It is an SP, but what you use it for is when it's graveyard effect. When it's in the graveyard, you can banish it, and you can target one Centur-Ion monster in your graveyard, synchro monster, and special summon it. But it loses 1500 attack, which doesn't matter because when you do this, it's usually because your opponent says break your board. And so when you banish this from the graveyard and keep comboing, when you bring this like Legatia back, she has the effect when she's special summoned. She can pop one and draw one, and doing that on your opponent's turn because they outed it is just so strong. And this card is so great, and you can immediately dump it from deck to grave using our next card, which is Wake Up. This is Wake Up Centur-Ion. Essentially, what it does is if there's a monster card face up in our Sprout Trap card zone, including our scales, we can declare level 4 to 8, and then we can special summon a token. It's 0/0, but that doesn't matter. It's just to synchro, right? You use that 4 or 8 to fix those hands where you just don't have access to an 8, and you make your 12s. Its second effect is that it can banish itself and send one Centur-Ion hard from deck to grave. And the biggest thing is that's where you send Phalanx, because Phalanx gets that second effect that's insane, or you can even send Bonds if you want to chain block on something else. But that just being able to dump anything from deck to grave because you have so much graveyard recursion is just super strong. And now we're going for the non-engine right now. So we'll start with the two Bestials. So Drew Swarm and Magnum feel really strong this format. They were really good. They came up in a lot of the Azamina stuff because now I'm seeing a lot of light and darks. Before they weren't as good, but now that we're kind of in a lighter dark format, hitting like those Ubel cards and the Azamina stuff is really strong. Also, the White Forest matchup cannot deal with these guys. You kind of just snipe their tuners when they shuffle back, and it just feels really strong. You can also search Atri or Gargoyle with Magnamut because they are dragons, which is super strong too. Also, Druid Swarm's effect is to pop. If you time it correctly, you can actually synchro this guy off into something in my extra deck that I'll show you later on, and you'll get two, like the pop and the banish off of that, and that's just that's strong. That's more of that layered interaction that I really like. We have the big boy here. So we have triple shifter. So a lot of people were not expecting this during the tournament. A lot of people did not see this card being dropped. And the reason why we play this is because this format, we need to stop. We need to end turns, you know? This deck cannot break boards going first or going second. It's really hard to break boards going second. So you need just a turn ender card. So that's what we play Shifter for. Shifter's just really good. I don't have to explain what it does. We're in a graveyard format, and you don't need your graveyard for this deck. The motorbike does not discard the graveyard, it just discards. So your engine is still live no matter what. And like the only thing it messes with is your field spell. So the next thing we have is triple imperm. This one does conflict with our engine, our super heavy samurai engine, but it's just imperm. You know, it's just good. It avoids talents. If you're under shifter, you can still activate it, and that just feels really strong. You know, it's like imperming Ash now feels stronger than what it did before, and you know you need to see the non-engine. Next, we have triple Droll, which I had a lot of people ask me why I played Droll and Shifter, and same reason why I play Shifter is you need to see those turn ender cards, and when you do, like Droll is a blowout card this format. Like no one can play under Droll right now, and it's just too strong. I mean, it's okay that it conflicts with Shifter. You know, we can pitch things out of our hand, but you need to see one of those turn ender cards to stop someone else from going off. And I'm okay with like playing the little bit of extra deck space or the main deck space. So yeah, we had to play Droll. And then standard, obviously we have Ash. Ash is Ash. It's just really good. You can pretty much hit everything this format with Ash. And now for our little utility spots here. So we play the two bonfire. Trudea is a pyro, but I didn't play 3 because we don't want to open Bonfire with Trudea, it doesn't feel great. You're kind of stuck with this in hand and her, and then there's like no other searcher, and it's just not worth it. So 2 felt fine. I saw it when I needed to. And then under Shifter, Trudea is also your 1-card starter, so you gotta see it. You gotta see it. A kind of tech card that a lot of people didn't see, Shadow's Light. So this was a really spicy card that me and my friends, I actually put a lot of people onto this because no one knew what this card did. So what it does is it lets me target 1 dark monster I control and then special summon 1 light monster from my deck or extra deck with the same original type and level, but it's light. It also has a graveyard effect, which allows you to additionally normal summon a lighter dark, which if you guys haven't seen, it's essentially all lighter darks. You're playing all lighter darks. Like even Wakaushi's a dark. And like so that additional normal summon just comes up so many times, but the biggest thing is being able to go on your extra deck. Auxilla is a dark. So Auxilla is a dark dragon, and being able to target her with Shadow's Light and just get a free summon of Crimson Dragon and then Crimson Dragoning and going from there is just so strong. I did not understand why people were not playing this card. This is just like such an overlooked card. We're not getting a battle phase anyways on our first turn, so like the downside isn't even there. Like someone asked me like what the cost was, and I was like just targeting, you know. But yeah, that was the tech card of the day. And then for our last 2 cards, we have a call by and Meridian Reframing. So call by was very good. It's a very mixed max card. You can play offensively, you can play defensively. I used it a lot to hit the Azamina Omni because it tributes its cost in the graveyard, and it just felt so good. And then the reframe. So a lot of people aren't going to know what this is, but essentially it's the Visa Starfrost counter trap. You can search this in the deck. So essentially it's an Omni negate if I control a Synchro monster. It doesn't negate and destroy unless I control a Visas Amitar or a monster with 15 to 21, which is great because when you get those Snake Eye matchups, the biggest thing is to hit their Snake Eye Poplar. Is to hit Poplar because hitting Poplar out of their hand, like keeping it in their hand and negating the effect, is just so strong. That really put me onto this, and you know I was expecting more drop play and more board breakers and stuff like that. So this against Tempai was really strong too. It just stopped things that would blow you out. So now going to the extra deck. So we're obviously on Centur-Ion. So we have our double Auxilla. So the heart and soul of the deck. It used to be Legacia, however, Auxilla is just better. So what Auxilla does is she's like Primera. She essentially lets you add any Centur-Ion card when she synchro summon or when she special summon, and then she has a secondary passive effect that while she face up on the field, all your face up spells and traps cannot be destroyed by card effects, which is so strong because Mourners, Lightning Storms, Harpies, none of that stuff works while she's up on the field, and it's so strong. They all also all the Big 12s have the big thing of being able in the end phase to place one from graveyard or banished, which is why I said you play Shifter back to the board, and that just lets you keep extending and extend playing on your opponent's turn, and that's really what's important. But yeah, Auxilla makes the deck just so good because the protection is just insane. Ghost Ogre is not happening, but yeah, stuff like that is just protection from. And then we have our other level 12. So we have Legacia. So she's the original. When she is synchro summoned, what she does is she lets you non-target pop, and then, you can draw 1, and then the non-target pop is optional, which is strong. It's strong for breaking boards. It's how you break boards. She has the same thing as she can place 1 during the end phase from your graveyard. She can't place from banished, which kind of sucks, but you never end on her really. You end on Auxilla. And if you do end on her, the idea is to bring her back with the trap because getting a non-target pop and a draw on the same thing is insane. Now for the other 12, we have Crimson Dragon. Crimson Dragon is the heart of the deck. Essentially, another heart of the deck, I should say. Essentially, what it does is it lets you you target 1 level 12 you control, and you can special summon 1 dragon level 12 dragon from your extra deck, and it just lets you cheat stuff out. You're making this every time on your opponent's turn, and you're probably winning when you do. Most of the time, no one can really deal with this card. If they imperm it too early, it's a quick effect, so you can just chain it. If they hit it, you usually have an interruption before then. And then here are the targets for the Crimson Dragon. So we have our Cosmic Blazars and our one super red supernova dragon. Cosmic Blazar Dragon is essentially, it can banish itself as cost, and it can do 3 things. So when an attack is declared, it can immediately end the battle phase, which is for Tenpai. It's super great for Tenpai because it banishes its cost. When an opponent would summon a monster, you can negate the summon, which is crazy because, again, like negating an Ash or Hydra or anything like that is just super strong. And then the third effect is when a spell or trap card is activated, you can immediately negate it. It does negate activation, so they can't activate another one again. However, an Omni negate that keeps coming back because during the end phase it'll come back is ridiculous. This is not once per turn either. It's ridiculous how good that card is. So we have Red Supernova Dragon, who is the other 12. He didn't come up a lot today, however, in testing he comes up so much. Essentially, when an attack is declared or a monster effect is activated, you can chain, banish as cost, and banish everything on field that your opponent controls, which is super strong. Sometimes you catch Yubel players ending on Yubel, and Yubel has a mandatory effect to tribute a monster. You can chain to that and banish their entire board, and they just have to go to game 2. It also gains 500 attack for each tuner in your graveyard, which you have so many of. Like if Primera, you have the Atri, you have the 8, you have a bunch of them, and so this guy's just getting bigger. You don't see it a lot because you rather end up on the Cosmic Blazer, but when you do, it's just so important to get this guy out. For our 8s, we have, here you go. So we have Visa Samitara. Like I said, we had a way to search it. This is our way to search it. He takes 1 light tuner, and if you realize that Primera is the light tuner, it's super easy to make him. He searches, when he's summoned, he searches any spell trap that mentions Visa Starfrost, which is the counter trap. And then that's basically what you use him for. He's also a tuner, so when you synchro into him, you can take one of your non-tuners and immediately synchro him away into a 12th, which is super strong. We have our other Centur-Ion monster, Primaris. She's super amazing. So this is the newest card, the newest ad from our from the support that we just recently got. And essentially what she does when she synchro summons, she can search an Emblema Oath card, which, like I said, was the Abomination's Prison. You couldn't search it. And she can non-target pop 1 card on your field and 1 card on their field. And that's insane. So when you make her with the Super Heavy Samurai line, she is always going to be chain blocked with Wakauchi. And meaning that you can pop, not only can you get the free pop off the scales if you're breaking boards because you already have Big Benkei in the scales, you also cannot get ashed on this. And that's insane. That is just too much. She also has the effect to summon herself back from graveyard when a Centurion card is left by your opponent's card effect, which is insane because when Tenpai blows you out, you can summon her back and she can no longer be destroyed by battle. So you are protected. They can try to destroy by card effects, but there's ways to avoid that. And then we have Excel. Excel is a strong card. It isn't as strong as it used to be because this used to be a free Baron, but it was just really good. It was super good. You can make it with the Super Heavy Samurai line, but it's super strong because you can make one of the other 10s. And the last 8 we have is our Chaos Archfiend. Didn't make this guy a lot, but he really was a killer. Essentially, what he does is if something's been banished this turn, he gains 2,000 attack, and then whenever he destroys something by battle, he can banish it. So and then he can attack everything. So he's a 45 beater that's attacking everything, and that's just a lot. And a lot of people have to use their interruption on this. And then next we have our 10s, which is our Chaos Angel and our Dissipator. A lot of people know what these cards do. Chaos Angel is just really good because now all of your synchro monsters are unaffected, especially since you can make them with the lighter dark with the Bestials. Dissipator is insane because under Shifter, this card just gives you a free summon of one of your guys, and you also get a negate. So, like, you have to play. I might cut them down for something else, but you just I feel like they're really good right now. And then the last card we have in that trick is Silhouette Rabbit. He was all right today, or he was all right for the event. What he does is every time you activate the Centur-Ion monsters because they're treated as continuous traps, he will be able to pop once per turn a spell trap, which is great. He's a great card, but he just didn't come up. I didn't see a lot of Yubel. I didn't see Yubel at all, and so being able to snipe back row just wasn't there. So now for the side deck. So we have our double evenly matched. So our triple evenly matched, or double evenly matched. I thought this card would come up more. It didn't come up at all. I played a lot of Tempi, so obviously. And then when I did open it, it was like people had just passed because we blew them out with our non-engine. That people had just passed. They just passed on nothing, and it just didn't feel great. We have our triple cosmic. A friend told me that you got to respect back row, and that is so true. Yubel was my scariest matchup because you make so many beat sticks, and cosmic just felt really strong. But yeah, we have our deck lockdown. This is your blowout card. So going first, like when Tempai makes you go first playing this card, it feels like you're almost invincible. Not only can it not be destroyed by Auxilia, but whenever it tries to pop itself, because it does pop itself, it will not resolve by popping itself, and it'll just stay on the field permanently, and you can just play under this so well, it doesn't even matter. Gravity Collapse, so our 2 Gravity Collapse. So this is another blowout card that I felt like needed to be played. You want to skip people's turns, and you also end on an extra synchro monster all the time. So what this card does is basically whenever your opponent would summon a monster, you can send a synchro monster you control to the graveyard, and then negate the summon, and they can't summon for the rest of the turn. Which that's just calamity, and that feels really strong when you set up a board like that and you have so much gas. We have the 2 spookies. I thought these would come up more. They didn't see a lot of. I don't know. It just didn't go into time a lot. This deck doesn't go into time, and I was worried, but they didn't come up. And the last card is the triple Walrus. Yes, I did side it. I thought this card was great. The time that I would open it, it felt great, but I just couldn't bring myself to play this in the main because yes, I can usually pitch it for field spell, but it just felt like a dead card. It was a card I didn't want to see going first. And so I decided to side it. I'd rather side it, but I did draw about 7 cards on someone because they just kept going into it. And yeah, that felt great. I mean, they gave me everything I needed. Yeah, that's pretty much the entire deck.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for the in-depth explanation. Congrats again. Any last shout-outs?
Yeah, shout out to Sun City Games. That's my locals. Shout out to Javi. Shout out to Luna. Those are like my 2 best friends that cheer me on. Shout out JJ Kobe. And to all my friends that watched me. Again, I really appreciate it. It was like a big thing for me to make it here. And so shout out them. They really put me on and they've taught me a lot.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Take care.